This is the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast here on YouTube. If you can, go down below, hit that subscribe button. Tonight we're joined by Katie and Jessica, the founders of Ohio Women on the Fly, and they do just that. They get women out there fly fishing here in Ohio. So let's dive right in. Katie and Jessica, welcome to the show. How are you both doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing good.
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to have you both on. I know you both are a part of Ohio Women on the Fly, which I've been following you guys on Instagram for quite a while now. And I'm always super jealous of like the fishing pictures, all the fun it looks like you guys are having. I follow you both personally on Instagram too, all the awesome beers you're drinking. And it looks like you're always having a good time. And that's what we're all about here. Yeah. Cheers. So I want to, before we get carried away into the organization and stuff, I'll let you guys pick who goes first. But why don't you kind of tell a little backstory of, did you grow up in the outdoors? Have you always been into the outdoors, or kind of something that you grew into as you got older? So I'll let you guys rock, paper, scissors for it.
Do you want to go ahead, Katie?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to rock, paper?
Yeah.
Literally.
All right.
Do you do shoot?
On shoot, yeah.
Okay.
Shoot.
All right, ready? Rock,
Paper, scissors, shoot. Are we lagging?
All right, I'll just go first. I'll go first.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I grew up mostly on a lake. I spent a lot of my childhood outside wakeboarding and doing things like that. And then in college, I worked at a campground and canoe livery. And I think that's sort of where I found myself in the outdoors and really discovered what the outdoors meant to me. And then during college, I competed on a water ski team. So I was camping out for things like that. But I would say it was after college that I really, really found like my love for the outdoors. After I was no longer working at the campground and canoe livery, I was sitting in the office. I was like, I need to get outside. I need to be in the woods. So I got pretty involved in camping and backpacking and hiking. Was a pretty avid rock climber. And then I was introduced to fly fishing. And that has pretty much taken over my world.
How about you, Jessica?
That's my background.
Nice.
Yeah, so I have to basically give a lot of my credit to my entire family. Has always been outdoorsy, especially my dad. So our family vacations were always camping, backpacking, going into the woods, cycling, doing everything. So I'm a lot like my dad in that aspect. I give him all the credit for it. So when I'm such a bad explainer of things, but like sidebar, when I was like 12, my dad thought it was like a great idea for us to ride a bike from like Brecksville all the way to Solon, and like I was basically still had like the streamers on my bicycle handles, and I don't think he checked the weather because we got like trapped in a storm, and we had to like go to like a nursing home to like take cover from this like tornado warning, and I remember like getting wrapped in a blanket and all like the old women just like scolding my dad about how dangerous it was for me to be out there. So anyways, long story short, I get my adventure side from my dad. I've always been outside. I went to college. I played volleyball and softball in college. And after that, I needed like a big fix of adventure. So I got into ultra running. And then from there, I've always been outside, and I found fly fishing actually through running. Yeah.
Ultra running is every time I see someone do a crazy like ultra running thing, I'm always like, oh my God, I could never do that. I'm such a wimp. Like I can walk all day, but ultra running, that's just like a whole new level of brutality. But that's awesome. So what specifically sparked this interest for you guys to come together and create Ohio Women on the Fly? Because like you guys always have so much cool stuff going on. Just looking at your website and your Instagram and stuff. Where did this kind of, more than just going out and having a good time, you made an organization out of it. So where did this inspiration come from?
Jess, you want to take this? You want me to do it? I can tell our little come together story.
Yeah, go ahead, for sure.
Okay. So I think it was about 3 years ago.
For
maybe?
sure.
2 years ago. I was on the board for the Ohio Climbers Coalition, and we were putting on a climbing festival, and we were looking for some vendors, and Jess founded, right, the Green Girl Gang?
I did, yeah.
Which is an outdoor group for women in the Cleveland area. And so I had reached out to her and asked if she wanted to come down to this climbing festival. And I think I just probably followed your Instagram page, and then you posted something about fly fishing. And I was like, wait, I just got into fly fishing, and I don't know any other ladies that fish. And so Jess and I just kind of hit it off. And I think we said one day, we're like, let's just put out a date and see if people come to this one state park to come fishing. And there are about 4 or 5 ladies. We were so inspired, and we're like, all right, we're making a documentary. We're getting all these people together. And then everything is just kind of flourished from there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you're still working on? You gonna make a movie?
Well,
we're trying to, yeah. So, yeah. We're like looking at different like little sponsorships and stuff like that. We're trying to get a film together. And then my husband full-time is he's a videographer. So I have like a little bit of background in video and photography. And we're just basically like begging him to help out. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got a good head start on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it kind of a growing thing? I mean, it seems like you guys have groups going out all the time catching, big ass fish, making me jealous.
Yeah. So before COVID hit, we were kind of cruising with everything. And then we had like a little bit of standstill, but with that standstill, we found different ways to basically still get the women involved. And the good thing about fishing is usually you go out alone anyway. So we just asked everyone to share photos, their stories, videos, and we got super into the, international fly fishing community in general through social media. And then when things started calming down, Katie has been doing a really amazing job with doing social distancing group meetups, where we basically only have anywhere between I think 5 to 6 women that will show up and all fish together, wearing their mask and being super good about the whole situation that's at hand. So yeah. And I've done 1 or 2, but for the most part, we're trying to get rolling again and getting people together.
Yeah. What kind of species are you targeting here in Ohio? Because I know, out west, it's all these like big fish, trout, salmon, all this cool stuff. And we do have that stuff around here. So what are kind of your guys' favorites to go after?
Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. So during the warmer seasons, usually targeting smallmouth, carp is on my list. And at a couple of the meetups this summer, me and one other lady were like, all right, let's try to go for carp. But it hasn't panned out yet.
So much fun.
Yeah. And then kind of fall and winter and a little bit of early spring, we go for trout. We have a few stocked rivers around here. And then obviously Steelhead up in Cleveland area. And we also, when this first started, so like, as I said, we were trying to make this, we were like, oh, let's make a documentary, like showcase women in Ohio. And then all of a sudden, all these people wanted to be involved. They wanted to have meetups. So we did a couple small trips like West Virginia and fish for trout there. And that's something we hope to resume. So when we're in Ohio, mostly bass and trout, but definitely want to get some like group trips together and expand for other fish.
What are the rivers you guys are usually hitting out? And probably mostly towards Cleveland, I would assume.
Oh yeah. So Rocky River, Vermilion, the Black River, Chagrin. Just all the tributaries along the Great Lakes, basically. So trying to hit them all, but yeah, mostly Lake Erie.
It's crazy because, someone like me, I've been doing outdoors, everything, like pretty much since I was, I don't know, maybe like 12. Like we moved up to Michigan. My dad moved us up there, and I've been doing outdoor stuff like for a really long time, but I've never done fly fishing. And I don't know if it's because I'm out of Toledo and it's just kind of like starting up here, or what's going on with that. But like fly fishing is awesome because I want to say it's a little more technical than just your average, kind of like top water, chuck it, with a, you know, like a little bobber and a worm kind of thing. How much time do you guys spend teaching people how to fly fish? Because I know it's not as easy as just buying a pole and showing up.
Jess, you want to take it or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I could kind of like pop in there. Yeah,
okay, yeah. So I've only been fly fishing for about 3 years. So I am still learning a lot. And a lot of our meetups, most women know how to fish. I have taught a couple, but like I said, I'm still new. And so we have offered clinics to learn how to cast and things like that. And there's a lot of women that would like to be, they would like to learn more how to fly fish. And so again, COVID has kind of put things on pause, but I know hosting clinics like that geared more towards that is something we'd like to do.
That's awesome.
We also like really work with, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So we actually work a lot with our local shops too. So we've done quite a few clinics with like Chagrin River Outfitters, Backpacker Shop, and the Orvises in Cleveland and Westlake. So I think between those four and Mad River, I think we've done a few with Mad River. So I honestly think that we've probably done anywhere between, I want to say like 10 beginners clinics, and we've probably had 100 plus women already taking these all women specific fly fishing clinics. So teaching wise, like we really, really do well with all the local shops around here. And we are Katie and I are just recently trying to do it ourselves. So we really wanted to get that knowledge before we start opening our mouths and trying to, teach things. So like I said, like Katie, I've only been fly fishing for 3 years, but like her, I got really into it, and that's all I can think about now. So
that's everybody I know that has gotten into fly fishing. It's like they start and then they're all in. Like they start and then they buy, and then they're just like, I spent $10,000 on fly fishing stuff this year. And you're like, what? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
That's partly why I have not started, because I'm terrified. I already have too many hobbies, and I'm like, I do not need one more expensive hobby. Is it a little pricey to get into, or is there some budget stuff you can start out with? Because I know gear like puts a lot of people off with any new activity. Backpacking, kayak, anything is expensive really to start out.
Yeah, so I think that people definitely get like thrown off by how much it could be, but it doesn't have to be. Like Katie, like all the women actually are really good about sharing stuff. So to get into it, we usually have an extra pair of waders, an extra rod. Like we could usually find something. So if you wanted to do one class, we have the gear for you. But I think I looked it up one time, and it was around, I think $300 to $400 just to get like a basic like fly rod, waders, whatever. And that is off-putting. And usually within a year, because you get so hooked in it, you're spending a little bit more money on newer gear. But like that's every sport, I think. You could find used gear. You could find ways to make it less expensive. You could find friends that like are gear freaks, and like the next year they want the best thing, so they're going to be selling you their rod for cheap. So you can make it happen. It doesn't have to be expensive if you're willing to do the work to get stuff for cheap. So, yeah. What's
kind of like a basic setup for anybody who wanted to start fly fishing? A lot of people, when they talk fishing and fly fishing specifically, there's dedicated podcasts to this. And like for my audience, they might not even know what you need, because I've done just your basic fishing: bass, crappie, bluegill, all the tasty little ones that are easy to catch. So kind of what are you looking at if you just wanted to walk out the door with some a basic fly fishing setup, and then what kind of basic skills do you need to learn over the first couple of years? Because like you guys said, you're just kind of getting into it yourselves, and I'm sure you've already kind of done the research. And anybody listening that might want to get into it, what would they need?
I can take that one if you want, Jess.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I've been selling a lot of these kits in the shop lately. So if you're looking to get into fly fishing, I would suggest looking at some of the fly kits, and that will come with your rod, your reel, your line, and a case. And TFO makes a really good starter kit. It's the NXT Black Label, I believe is what it is. It's a 9-foot 5-weight rod, which right now with the pandemic, 5-weight rods are a little tough to come by, but they are out there. And so a TFO is good. Redington has some good kits. Echo also has good kits. Theirs are a little bit more pricier. But yeah, I mean, you can get a kit for like $170. And then that's what I started with. And I fished with that rod for 2 years before I kind of splurged and got a nicer rod. So yeah, those are good kits. And then if you're just fishing around Ohio, really, there's like woolly buggers or like clouser minnows. There's all types of different flies that you can get that aren't super pricey. And if you like that enough, you'll probably end up start tying your own flies. And you can use kind of whatever. But yeah, the kits are probably the best way to get started.
Fly tying is insane to me because it's like, not only is it you're adapting and like locally what you're finding and what you see, what the fish are eating, but it's like an art. Like I've seen some flies that have been tied that I'm like, oh my God, this belongs in a museum. Like this is amazing. Have you guys got into that yet? Or are you, yeah.
We both have gotten into fly tying, but it's so funny because like I used to try making everything look so perfect and beautiful. And then those are usually the flies that the fish don't give two shits about. And then like the ones that you like just throw together with like two different things. And they're like the ones that are going to be like gobbled up the fastest. But it is an art and there is beautiful things. So don't get me wrong, like the the beautiful streamers and things like that people are throwing together. It's insane, but it's insane how artistic people can get with that.
Yeah, and fly fishing to me is always fishing in general is like very fashionable, I would say, because you got your fishing shorts and your fancy fishing shirts and all this stuff. But when you get fly fishing, it's like a REI catalog or it's like something you guys are always styling out there. It's super sweet though. But I know personally because my friend Brad owns Wildwood Anglers and he. Like you walk in that shop and I'm like, oh, check out these waders. These are cool. And I'm like, I look at the price tag and I'm like, nope. See you later. Thanks. It was nice hanging out. So waders specifically, are you guys, I know there's like, you can either wade fish like with waders on, or you can just go in shorts and socks and call it a day. So which do you guys prefer, or is it per season? I really have no idea.
Yeah, so it's definitely like per season. Definitely in the winter when you're steelhead fishing and it's like super cold outside, you're not going to want to be in your Tevas and shorts for sure. So, which I've done, like, of course, like after work, sometimes you do forget your socks, you're throwing in your waders without like a warm pair of wool socks and you're just like freezing your toes, but you're there already, so you're in it. But yeah, so summer, spring, even in the fall, you could do wet wading. So that would be your Tevas and shorts and you're just in there kind of bass and bluegill and carp and whatnot. And of course, steelhead season and trout season, you're going to be wanting to get into those waders because you're going to be a little bit cold if you're not in those. So, yeah.
And you don't have to go expensive. I was going to say,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Very expensive with your waders. Jessica, she knows this. I wore like $99 Redington waders that were probably 5 sizes too big for me for like 2 years. And I was like, whatever. They just kind of like, I swam in them pretty much. So you can get started with some cheaper waders.
Around here, I hear that steelhead are like the fish to catch because that's all my boys talk about. So what is the experience of catching a steelhead for a simpleton like me who obviously should not have an outdoors podcast because I've never caught a steelhead?
Oh. Katie, you want to take this one first?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Well, for me, okay, so I like catching steelhead. I think it's really fun. But bass fishing is kind of like, that's what I really enjoy. I think there's nothing better than like tugging on a bass.
That's just the Midwest.
Yeah, that is the Midwest. Yeah. But for steelhead fishing, I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's just around here or everywhere, but it's a challenge. And so when you do finally hook into one and it kind of takes off, it's an adrenaline rush. It's exhilarating. It's really cool. It's something you got to experience.
Absolutely. I want to get out this year. That's one of my goals, is to get out and catch a freaking steelhead. And I will trade video work, whatever I got to do to get out there to get a steelhead. So we'll kind of shift gears here a little bit. What is it like to kind of have a women's fly fishing organization in like what would probably be considered a pretty heavily male dominated sport? Like just the outdoors in general with hunting, fishing, anything like that is always like viewed as like a manly thing. So what's that like for you both to kind of come into this as a women's group?
Jess, wanna?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to think of like how I can say this, but no, it's been super amazing and welcoming. And at first you're getting intimidated. You're walking in there, you walk into a shop and it's like scary. There's so many different things, bobbers or indicators. And like, it's just like all these different words and you don't understand what's going on and it could be scary. And, all the guys are rigged up full head to toe with their like orbs and swims, like sim swag. And you're like, I am not supposed to be here. But for some reason, like, I'm not sure if I've heard like stories of like, people kind of not being the nicest, but in the Midwest, I've never had one problem with, a guy in the shop, being horrible. Everyone's been super welcoming. I think that they love like the new clientele, of course. And on top of that, I just think that, I think the guys love teaching too. Like, I think like guys love teaching women because I hate to say this, but we actually like listen and we enjoy like learning, and we're not going to like basically tell them like, ignore them and be like, oh, I know what we're doing. Like we're really, really into it. And we really want to learn and we're passionate about it. And it could be scary, but for the most part, like everyone has been like super, super amazing. And around here, I don't think it's not normal to have women in the fly industry right now. So it's been pretty awesome. I don't know if Katie wants to say anything more or if that made any sense whatsoever.
Made perfect sense. I was going to actually say, cool. Katie, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just nailed it. But a lot of the guys and men that I've encountered, they're just stoked for us. Yeah. They're excited to see women on the water. They're excited to hear about where we've been, what we're catching, and offer any help that we need. So it's just been really welcoming. And I mean, I started last year going to the Central Ohio Fly Fishers. They have these monthly meetings, and I would show up and it was like 40 old men in there and just little me sitting in there in the back. And now I'm like buddies with a bunch of them, and I love having conversations with them. So it's actually been pretty awesome.
I mean, they just like to be outside and have a good time and drink beer. So that's the same thing that we like to do. So yeah. That's
like my favorite pastime, being outside and drinking beer. But it is, when I think fly fishing, I also kind of have that same vibe. Like where I'm at locally, like in Toledo, I'll go to a lot of events, the outdoors events, and I'll talk to people, and all the fly fishing booths are the same thing. Like 50, 60-year-old men, and they'll fish around Cleveland and stuff, but they have the money to like go out west and do some like crazy fly fishing stuff. Or everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna go to New Zealand this year, and I'm just like, I might buy a fly rod. You know what I'm saying? So you guys have any dream trips that you want to go on fly fishing wise? I know there's a lot of crazy places around the world where people just drool over. And I know that's one of the things I like to talk about, is because like I don't get to go a lot of places that I want to go. So what's the dream? Living the dream.
Kick it off, Jess.
So I was like going to do 2 of my dreams this year, actually, but because of COVID, they got canceled. But I was going to go to Mexico, and I was going to fish salt. And I even did like in February, I did a trip in Florida just to kind of like get the feel of it, but that got canceled. And then in October, I was supposed to go to Kodiak, Alaska and fish there, and that got canceled as well. So those are definitely 2 places that I would love to fish. But I think I would love to go back to Iceland and fish in Iceland again as well. So those would probably be like my top 3 where I'd want to go.
Everybody that's been on this podcast has talked about Iceland. It's like a running thing. Katie, what about you? What's your dream? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's tough. So no. So I learned to fish when I was in Alaska. So I've been dying to get back there now that I know what I'm doing and actually go back and really take it all in. And I was supposed to go in September, but it got canceled because of COVID. So Alaska, and then I was reading a magazine about, I believe it's called the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and it was like a 5-day backpacking and fly fishing adventure, and I would love to do something like that. I think one of my favorites is to backpack and fly fish. I did a trip to Wyoming and got to fish some high alpine lakes, and I would love to do something like that again.
Yeah, backpacking is like where I'm most comfortable at. Like I've done the Appalachian Trail. I just backpack all over Michigan all the time. I'm trying to go somewhere this weekend, Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend, and it's just like everything is, I know it's going to be a shit show, and I like kind of don't want to go now because every campsite is going to be just insane. Have you guys ever done anything up in like Manistee? Because I know that's some serious fishing up there. People love going up there.
I have not. Have you, Jess?
I have not either. Yeah. So maybe we should put that on our list as well.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking because you said you wanted to go backpack and fish. That I see people up there. I've done the Manistee River Loop Trail more times than I want to count. It's just kind of getting boring at this point. But there's always people out there, fly rods in their pack, just kind of walking around, wading. And that's kind of what interested me in fly fishing potentially is that the gear is super light. You kind of just bring a little bit of stuff with you. You don't have all this crap that you're carrying around besides just a fly rod, some flies. So, Katie, I'm kind of interested. You say you've done a ton of backpacking. What are some trips that you've been on? Because that's kind of like near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, so let's see. If there's one that's kind of close, you can do a lot of backpacking and fly fishing in West Virginia. I went down and did Seneca, and that was kind of cool because it was a weekend trip, so got there kind of late, just only backpacked in a few miles, set up camp, and then fished. But last year I had the chance to go out to Wyoming in the Wind River Range, backpacked 30 miles, and each campsite was at a different alpine lake. So I was able to fish them and caught some cutthroat. And I mean, that was awesome. I mean, there's nothing better than just being out there, like knowing that you have to get through something and doing it and accomplishing it, and then also getting to enjoy fly fishing in the evening. It was super rad.
Do you guys have any interesting stories from your fly fishing endeavors? It sounds like you're very well traveled around the U.S. and partially around the world. So has anything crazy happened while you've been out on these fishing trips or backpacking trips?
Jess, do you have any stories?
I mean, where do we want to go with this? Like, do we want it to be like...
I want it to get as weird and crazy as you can possibly make it, because that's what I'm all about. Stories and fun stuff outdoors. Oh my
gosh. A weird story of fly fishing. I don't know. Katie, does one come to mind that I could think of?
I don't know. I can't, nothing is coming to mind right now.
I feel like every time we go out, something weird happens, but it's like little things. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I remember, something that's like not very weird, but last year I got to go to Canada, and I got to go fly fishing in Vancouver and Tofino. And I was like saving up all my money. I was like working all these jobs. I was so excited. I was like texting Katie. I'm like, I'm going to catch all these huge fish. I'm like, I can't wait. And I was like, I'm going to check off this list. It's going to be awesome. And, but I got there, and of course, like all the rivers were blown out, and it was like spring. It didn't go at the right time. Spent all this money. The guides were awesome. I learned so much, which is the whole point of, being with guides and traveling and going to different places, which was awesome. But the only thing I caught was like a salmon fry that was like this big. And I was so proud of that salmon fry, but I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like coming home with like my tail between my legs. Like I didn't catch shit. So, but it was like a great experience. I got to go ahead.
Well, I mean, anytime you get to travel somewhere new and do something like that, it's awesome, even if it sucks. You know, like that's like the vacation fiasco. Every time you go somewhere, it turns into this like, I'm so excited, and then it ends up just being like a complete shit show. But Iceland, come on, you had to have something cool going. I mean, there's nothing not cool about Iceland, but what is it like to fish over there?
So I didn't get to fish. So I've only been fishing for 3 years. So Iceland was before my time of fishing, sadly. But now I'm seeing all these documentaries and I'm like, holy crap, I want to go back there. But I got to fish in Florida, which was awesome. I did hook into, like, my guide said it was a 150-pound tarpon, which I think he was trying to make me feel better, but I'm going to say it's 160 now. So, but but once again, like, I'm new. So like, I'm throwing myself out there. I like tell all these guys, I'm like, I am so new. I'm going to be horrible, but like, let's freaking do this. Like, just tell me what I need to know. Like, teach me everything. Like, literally, like, go for it. Like, I'm not going to be bothered if you're just like telling me what to do 24/7. But I hooked into this tarpon, and the main thing about tarpon is you're supposed to strip set them, and I'm like from Ohio, and I'm used to trout setting everything, so I try to trout set this like 150-pound tarpon. I lost it, and then finally like I hooked into another one, and I finally hooked it. It started to run, and then it started charging the boat, which was absolutely insane, and like didn't strip it in fast enough, and it's just like you do all these trips and you think you're gonna like do all these crazy things and hook into these amazing things, and then you're like, wait, I'm new, like I'm not doing one thing right. And it's just like a total learning experience. And that's why I was like so excited to go back to Mexico, because I was like, I'm ready. I'm gonna not trout set. I'm gonna listen to my guides. I'm gonna be faster and like stealthier. I'm gonna be awesome. But you know what? Like, I'd probably go to Mexico and do the same shit that I was doing before. So, but yeah. I mean, like, yeah, like weird stories. I'm like, every time you go out there, like something weird happens. Like on that Florida trip, I got to actually finally hook into a bonefish. I got to bring it in. But once again, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, when you're trout fishing or steelhead fishing, you hang onto the line. When you're bone fishing, you like basically like let that line fly, or you're going to get your like finger chopped off. And like my guide saw me trying to hold on to that line. He's like he ran over to me, stubbed his toe. He was bleeding everywhere. My fingers, my knuckles were bleeding because I like hooked up to like my line. So like every time you're doing something, like something weird happens. And I don't know, like that's like my only weird stories, but it's not that weird. So yeah.
Well, cool. And I don't think I could think of a weird story, but I do want to say on your comment of guides, like if you are interested in getting into fly fishing, it is totally worth spending the money to spend the day on the water with a guide, because you can learn so much from them, and you can like, it will just speed up your process of learning and how to cast and how to read water. And they're there to answer all your questions. And I have done a fair amount of guide trips, and I really think they're beneficial. So
I mean,
for sure.
I feel the same way. I mean, as someone, I do tons of outdoor stuff, but I'm like not good at any of it. I just like really like trying all these like sports and all these outdoors things. But yeah, going out with somebody who knows what they're doing will increase your skill level like so much faster than trying to just read forums and figure it out on your own. Because like for instance, I wanted to learn how to mountain bike, so I went out with like some professionals that are friends of mine, and like they taught me more in like 3 hours just screwing around at a park than I probably would have ever learned riding on my own. So it's totally beneficial. You just like, I think it's hard for a lot of guys to suck up their pride and just be like, oh, I'm going to go with this guide. And they're like, but they know what that's literally their job. Like that's what they do all the time. They take people fishing. So I would definitely listen to them. Katie, anything awesome about Alaska? I mean, I've never heard anything not awesome about Alaska, but that's one place I really want to get to. It's just a beautiful, astounding. I posted a thing on Instagram today. Like, have you ever seen a moose and like 500 people from Alaska are just like, every day, forever. So what's Alaska? It's just amazing.
Alaska is amazing. It's a state that I think everyone should visit, because it's just unlike anything else. It truly is wild. But I think my favorite part about Alaska at that time, I didn't fish. That's where I learned to fly fish. Was just watching the salmon run and learning how a lot of the salmon is like people's meals out there and what they live off, and then also what the salmon go through to get back to spawn and how far they go. And it just kind of gave me an appreciation for the fish and fish in general. And I don't know, weirdly enough, that like has like held a special spot in my heart, I guess.
Yeah.
And really makes me appreciate fly fishing more. But yeah, Alaska, I mean, it's beautiful. It's incredible. And if you go when it's light for a long time, you can adventure more.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have to deal with that here in Ohio, fortunately. If it was light all the time or dark all the time, I'd probably go crazy. So Cleveland actually is jumping, across the other side of the globe almost. Cleveland is awesome. I know you guys are always drinking beer out there when you're fishing, which is cool because that's like one of the main attractions to fishing for a lot of people. You guys hit a lot of breweries out there? Because I'm like a huge beer snob nerd, and we chat a little bit about beer. So what are your favorite breweries out there? Beer City.
Jess, I'll let you take that because you're from Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. I'm like, I get so nervous talking, but yeah, so we have like Thirsty Dog. So I work for a beer and wine distributing company, and then part-time
so you're not allowed to talk about it
and all these things, but oh no, I am, yeah, for sure. I mean, we have so many great breweries, but yeah, so we just got this like really cool, I think the Funkin' Ship, I'm pretty sure it's called, but it's like a really cool sour brewery that we just got, Platform. Which is they do an amazing job with marketing and being a part of like the Cleveland scene. Also, the Cleveland Fishing Co. has their walleye whistler there, which is really cool to represent like a fish that's, a fish that we all fish for here in Cleveland, and it's on our beer can. There's Thirsty Dog, Golden Horn. I mean, like you could just like name a ton of it goes on and on. The list goes on and on. So, but I think right now, close to my heart, I am liking Platform just because of how involved they are with the community. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's cool. Walleye.
I think one of my favorite time. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
Go ahead. I was gonna say one of our last year we held this trip at Mohican. I think one of my favorite times was we were all just sitting on the river drinking beers together.
Yeah, and and whiskey. Like I think that we're a bunch of like. Fishing is great, right? But we love to hang out and just have a good time together. Like we were just out in PA this weekend, and I mean, it was just not the best conditions. And all of us were just the one girl that we were going out there to meet, she was like, do you guys still want to come? Like it's, the conditions are going to be like, nah. And we're like, well, if it's shit, we could just drink beer and hang out. It'll be great. Yeah. So yeah. Drinking first, fish second. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Right.
So this COVID has just completely put the kibosh on a lot of stuff. It canceled a lot of your trips. Your meetups are kind of probably a little weird now with all the rules that are going on. When things kind of get back into action full time, hopefully sooner rather than later, because this is really freaking annoying not being able to travel and stuff, because that's like people like us, that's what we're all about, is travel, fish, hike, whatever. What are your guys' plans moving forward with Ohio Women on the Fly? Like what is your where are you going to pick back up steam? Where are you going to put your energy, and kind of what's the goal, the big goal?
Katie, you could take this.
Okay. So last year, like we said, we had a weekend at Mohican, and that went over really well. So we're hoping to do more weekend trips like that, get a cabin, fly fish for a weekend, and definitely do more meetups. In the winter, we like to do a lot of fly tying events. And then I know we would really like to hold more clinics teaching women how to cast, how to read water, because we get a lot of questions about that. So really just keep it going by holding more events and being able to and just getting back out on the water.
Yeah, we also hold the 50/50 on the Water Film Festival as well. So Katie's in Columbus and I'm in Cleveland. So we actually had the film in each city. So that was pretty awesome. But it would be awesome to have like a weekend long event where it was like specifically fly fishing for women, and we could just make it big and have all our local shops contribute with that. But we just, I think we're getting there, and everyone wants it to happen. Especially like in the outdoor community here in Ohio in general, because it kind of gets, shit on a lot.
Yeah.
But and so that's the main, like, before that was the main reason why I started another group that was specifically, it was called Green Girl, and it was specifically for all outdoors to get women involved in. And that was the main reason why, was because like out west is amazing and everywhere else is amazing, but like I'm from here, I grew up here, I love it here, and we have a lot of stuff to do and a lot of things that people don't know about, and I really care about where I came from. And so, I mean, I don't think people like we have people from like out of state, like we have people from Colorado wishing that they were a part of Ohio Women on the Fly. Mm-hmm. So like, it's insane that like, yeah, like where you're from is like, you know, out west and everywhere else in the world where there's like top notch fishing is awesome, but it's all about the community and, you know, and the people around you that's making it like basically badass. And so I think the group that we started with Ohio Women on the Fly and the Green Girl, like I think that is like basically showing the world basically that community, proud of where you're coming from, and just be basically like trying to get people out there. And
yeah,
I'm rambling. Go ahead.
No, what I was gonna say, that was one of our big things when we started with Ohio Women on the Fly, was to bring the community together and show them like some of the awesome rivers we have here in Ohio. And so continuing to do that by hosting events at these different areas. And that was one of my big goals for this summer. Was, you know, we had COVID, so we couldn't really travel, couldn't go too far. And I knew some women felt comfortable fishing locally. So from May to August, we had a monthly meetup, and each meetup was at a different river, so that these women can see like these areas we have around Columbus that you can fish, and just to open people up, because there is a lot of really cool areas around here. When I started fly fishing in Ohio and exploring, found some really sweet areas, which I'm not going to give the waterways, but like some of the spots I was like, wow, I don't even feel like I'm in Ohio. Like it's really beautiful.
That's partly why I started this podcast too, because I found the same thing. Like growing up, I lived in Michigan, but it was like literally like 20 minutes from like Toledo, Ohio. So it wasn't like I was way up in the Upper Peninsula where all the national forests and stuff are, or northern Michigan. So I basically was in Toledo more than I was in Michigan. And it's like, I didn't realize how awesome locally like Ohio was for the outdoors until I got way older, until I was in like my 20s. And, you know, your whole life, you just hear like, it's like, that's like the Ohio motto. It's like, I get the hell out of Ohio. And then you go
west,
you go travel, you do all this shit. And then you come back to Ohio and you're like, it's really not that bad, guys. So do you guys have any opinions on why you think people just hate Ohio so much? Like, I don't really get it. Like now that I'm here and I live here and I work here and I'm involved in the outdoors community, like I think it's great. Like, yes, we don't have mountains. We don't have, you know, gigantic, beautiful ice-fed like mountain glacial melt rivers, but we do have a ton of outdoors opportunities. Like there's tons of parks. Like, why do you think we get this bad rap? It makes no sense to me.
People probably, they just don't know. If you're not from Ohio, you just don't get it. I guess that would be my thing. I mean, if you're in Colorado, you're like, oh, I got the mountains right here. When you're in Ohio, you kind of have to put some time and effort into exploring and finding the good stuff. And you're like, oh wait, yeah, this is actually pretty nice. We also have some good neighboring states. PA is beautiful. West Virginia, Kentucky.
New York. I love New York. Yeah.
So you just got to get out.
Yeah. I agree with what Katie was saying. Like, I just don't think people realize it. Plus, like, we also have that like that Ohio, like, I don't know, like if someone else talks someone else talks shit about Ohio, I'm like, you don't even know. Like, I get angry about it, but I'm the first one to be like, this place, like our rivers are whatever. I wish I was like trout fishing on dry somewhere out west, but like I freaking love it here. Like I said, family's here, everything's here. And like you were saying, like we might not have like a freaking mountain, but you definitely could get some elevation here. Like I've done plenty of running out in like our local parks to get a little bit of elevation on my legs. Or we have like the lake, which is pretty freaking awesome. Like we have sailing, surfing, kayaking, paddleboarding. Like we have it all here. It might be on a smaller scale, but like you got to believe like we're all crazy. We're all looking for a fix. So we're definitely getting after it. Like Cleveland or Ohioans are like, we're trying our hardest to get out there and get after it.
Well, people underestimate the Great Lakes because, out west, the continual debate is water rights. Right. And, there's all this issues around water. And out here in the Midwest, we're like, shit, we got more water than we know what to do with. Like
so much water.
Yeah. And like Lake Erie, I've been fishing out on Lake Erie for walleye and perch and all this stuff. And it's just like this, you could just drive a boat. You can go buy a boat, drive out there and just for the rest of your life, fish every day if you wanted to. Like it's an amazing resource.
Yeah. And I think to like kind of like add to what you're saying too, is I think that a lot of people, when they think fly fishing, they think like trout, like specifically. And I think that this like newer age of people that are getting into fly fishing, it's like, no, we could fly fish for bluegill and bass and pike and muskie and carp, which is like kind of like a huge thing that's going on right now.
Yep.
And then the next thing that's going on that's really big is actually like drumfish, which we have plenty of that here. And that's supposed to be like a riot on the fly because they are pretty close to like saltwater fishing, but in our freshwater. So once you start thinking of fish differently, then I think you're going to be a little bit happier when you're out there fly fishing and you're not like this old school.
Yeah. Do you think that's just kind of a
fly fisherman?
Yeah. Do you think that's just kind of an elite thing? Like, because those fish are like the prize fish?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I think that like everything that's going on in the world right now is pretty progressive. And so you got to start thinking differently and be happy where you're from and the fish that you're going to have to fish for. And it's still a riot. Like I have sometimes like I'm having more fun catching bluegill, like just drinking a beer, catching bluegill on the fly with my friends. And they also fight like crazy. Then like, sometimes I don't need a trophy trout, like that's a better time right there for me. So,
well,
yeah.
And it's always weird because I think a lot of people view like bluegill and crappie and stuff as like little kid fish because you just stand off a dock and they'll just nail your worm all day long. But like I'm like, no bullshit. I love walleye. I love perch. But if I can catch like 20 bluegill and just fry them up like that evening for dinner, like it's like insane. Like I would rather eat that than any other fish. And they're like not super difficult to catch. They taste good. Like they're not a ton of work, but like you said, they're fun. Like I think the Midwest has kind of always been kind of like this bass fishing hot spot because that's just like all the TV shows that have been around for the beginning of time are just like bass. Like dudes on boats with bass. That's all bass I remember
masters.
As a kid.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Do you guys eat a lot of the fish you catch, or are you mostly just catch and release for fun, or how do you handle that? Because I like to eat them personally.
Yeah, I think it depends on the fish for sure. I think it's like right now, everything's been very, very big on like keep them wet, release them, let them grow. So I think that I specifically don't eat a lot of my fish that I catch. If it depends on too where I'm at. Like if I'm at a nursery, so we had this like dilemma this weekend. So we were in PA this weekend and there's this really lovely nursery and it's actually like supposed to be this little kid pond where they stock the pond. And you can it's basically like going to like a fish market and instead of like ordering your fish from a window, you catch it and they fillet it up for you right there.
Yep.
And a lot of people have a hard time, eating trout because they're this magical fish that no one wants to eat, but man, that fish is so tasty. And
yes.
So like, and I also think like if it's here and there, like if you're just like, I've seen some pretty like wrong ways of, catching fish and eating it. But if you're doing it like here and there and you're being nice to the fish and I don't know, I don't want to like, I'm going to get like toasted for like saying like the wrong thing about it. But like,
no, it's totally fine. I know that like I live on social media and I run a podcast. So no matter what I say, people are like, you're an asshole. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever, dude. That's fine with me. Yeah, I don't know. There's always debates in the outdoors specifically, and anything that has to come with potentially a sport that kills something, people are always going to be upset about. And like, I don't think you should feel bad about that. Like I took a few weeks ago, my buddy, like a lot of my friends are not into the outdoors. Like I'm the oddball, I'm the weirdo. So he, for whatever reason, for his bachelor party, he wanted to go fishing. So I rented him a charter boat up on Lake Michigan and went fishing for lake trout. And like, I don't know if you guys have this experience, and you probably do because you're always with groups of people. Just watching someone catch a fish, no matter if it's their first fish or their like 500th fish, they're always stoked as hell. Every time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's sometimes better watching someone else catch a fish than catching a fish yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally was like watching
Katie,
my buddy catch his first fish, and like I wanted to jump on and catch it. Like I wanted to be like, damn it, that's my fish. But watching him catch it and like his face holding this fish for the first time in his life was just like, this is so cool, man. Like so cool. I absolutely love it. And I think you guys are doing a really great thing. Even if you're not getting new people all the time or whatever, even if you're like joining a community that there's other people out there doing it, it's awesome, because that's why I started the podcast. Like I really wanted to find these people in Ohio, like the both of you and all the people I've interviewed before. I just wanted to see who was out there doing this, because in my mind, there isn't anybody. Like I'm always like, who do I talk to about the outdoors? And it's been magical. So are you guys kind of finding that too? Like you're making a lot of great friends, a lot of great memories with people who just love doing outdoor stuff.
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, through Ohio Women on the Fly, I have met a lot of women and even a lot of men who just love the outdoors, love being outside, fly fishing. Jess and I both have met we've made a ton of friends.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We've made so many more connections, and yeah, I definitely do find that.
Well,
yeah, so the reason kind of like, reason why we kind of started these two groups were basically like when I started Green Girl, I was having a hard time finding outdoorsy people, and especially women. So that's the whole purpose of like starting that. And that's the whole purpose of why we started Ohio Women on the Fly. Cause it was just like Katie and I, like with all these dudes, which don't get us wrong. Like everyone's been awesome, but like, yeah, we just wanted to see who else was out there and the need for it. And like Katie and I both get messages on like Instagram pretty much like every week, just saying like, thank you girls for giving us like the inspiration to get out there or go into these classes or making it more comfortable to get into a fly shop. And like, we kind of like never felt like we were doing anything, you know, like we were kind of just like these two girls that just started out, and we're like, we're starting out too. We're basically new, but like, this weekend we were kind of talking and we were like, I haven't like the sidebar too, like I haven't seen Katie probably for like a few months. So like when we saw each other this weekend, it was like the best thing ever because I missed her so much. And I have so like much respect and love for the girl, but like, it was really cool to talk to her and be like, wow, like we are kind of like making a little bit of a difference, and we are getting people together, and we're not just like these two crazy women trying to be weirdly nice to every single person that goes into the fly shop. And I don't know. It's like, it's really cool starting these things kind of get together and move together and actually make an impact locally for women out on the water. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely really love what you guys are doing. I'm one of the weirdos that reached out to you randomly on Instagram. Your Instagram is super badass. Like every time you guys post something, I'm always like, oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I was doing that right now. So before we wrap things up, why don't you let everybody know where to find you, all your social tags. I'll throw them up on the screen on YouTube if people are watching, and just let people know kind of like how to get in touch with you so that they can find you on Instagram and follow the awesome stories that you guys are telling all the time.
Jess, you want to give that, or you want me to?
Yeah. So it's Ohio Women on the Fly is our Instagram. And then Katie, our website is also OhioWomenOnTheFly.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Ohio Women on the Fly. So it's pretty easy. It's all the same thing. Personally, myself, I'm Jessica Suvak Tran on Instagram. And I also have the Green Girl Gang, which is at the Green Girl Gang on Instagram, which is an all outdoor women's specific channel. And then Katie's Katie Johnstone.
Yeah,
so.
I'm just Katie Johnstone. And then I was going to say, if you go to Ohio Women on the Fly and you're interested, you can subscribe. We send out emails about upcoming events. We do not spam your email, so it's really just about things coming up. And then we also have an email, which is just womenonthefly@gmail.com.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. I really like to talk to all the fellow outdoorsmen and women in Ohio. And I really personally, I'm not saying this as just oh, it's on my show, blah, blah. I think you guys are doing really awesome stuff. That's why I reached out to you. And I appreciate that you're helping perpetuate the outdoors in not only the Midwest, but Ohio, because you both said, you love Ohio. It's not just some cornfield, BFE kind of place like everybody thinks it is. There's a ton to do out there. So thank you. And I hope to keep in touch with you guys. And I really hope everybody goes and follows you guys on all your social media channels. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, we feel the same about you as well. So thank you.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the Aptitude Outdoors podcast here on YouTube. If you can, go down below and hit that subscribe button. I want to thank Katie and Jessica for coming on tonight and teaching me and all of our listeners about the Ohio Women on the Fly. It's a great organization. If you can, go to OhioWomenOnTheFly.com and check them out, especially if you're a woman in Ohio and you want to go fly fishing. It's a great organization. You're 10 steps ahead of me because I've never been fly fishing. So thanks again, everyone. I'll see you next time.